Ah, yes, yet another city builder game. Hello again there, friends and fans. Raptor here, and welcome to a game that really is a blast from the past, not only because of the time frame in which it's taking place, but a game that really reminds me of the days of Pharaoh and, of course, Emperor Rise of the Middle Kingdom from Sierra. Do you remember those city builder games? They were amazing. They were like prerequisites to Anno. And if you like Anno 1800, and if you like yourself Emperor Rise of the Middle Kingdom, or really any city builder management game, then this is definitely going to be the game for you. Having a campaign that spans all the way from early time all the way up to apparently 2021. It's funny, it says the fall and rise of Mesopotamia 2021, giving you the history and many different missions to play throughout the, I guess, these times. Everything from the Assyrian Empire to Babylon to different types of empires and leaders that have taken over and taken command of the Euphrates ever since, well, let's see. Wow, yeah, about 10,000 BC. Amazing. Even times before pottery. Well, today we're going to build ourselves a big O city in this game. Unfortunately, no sandbox mode from what I can see at the moment, but there is a mod manager, and I am playing a early version of the game, so there could be more features coming. But again, check Steam for all of the description and pricing and whatnot. And of course, this game should receive some improvements in the future too, as all games do nowadays. There's no scenarios yet either, but I'm assuming there'll be some from the Steam Workshop. Let's jump really quickly now into a game scenario. We'll go into the campaign, and of course you can read everything here on screen. We're going to go into a time-lapse city build, so that way you guys can see everything, including building custom monuments in this game, which I find to be quite amazing. We'll jump into this period here right before the Neo-Babylonian Empire. Let's go ahead and jump here and see what it has to offer. Giving you a lot of description in the same style of that Pharaoh / Emperor Rise in the Middle Kingdom style. Love it. Great music to accompany this game as well. Really, really good stuff. I don't think it matters which one we choose here for now, so let's click that one. Beautiful. The only thing that I'd like to see from this game would be some sort of a animated intro showing you more about what there is to build and kind of getting you hyped and immersed for the time period. And of course, trading is abundant in this game. Building ports and of course trading with other cities in the empire. Really cool stuff. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at what it has to offer. So really briefly, just wanted to take a look around the map, and I'll explain a little bit more what's going on. And of course, we'll fail our first city because we're going to drive it just straight into the ground, just so we can try to build a bunch of buildings and see all the buildings that there are to offer. There's a lot of stuff to build with in this game too. A lot of it has to do with clay and making tablets and working with wood and other types of more rare materials. But what I like, I see. And just real quickly, I wanted to go over the palace building. And of course, you can build different types of things here, such as temples, palaces, and of course, you can customize it too. So if we wanted to build a temple, we can then go ahead and build different parts of the temple and add extensions and different things to kind of somewhat customize it. Of course, you can go into manual mode here and then build your own thing, custom parts, special parts, decorations. Kind of cool that you can do that, which is something that I really wanted from Pharaoh back in the day. Well, a really good looking game so far. Really good music. And look at that bridge, though. Look at that. Oh, man, look at that. I want to see some more birds flying around. I see lots of fish here, but I want to see more wildlife, too. Of course, we can do farming and things like that as well. And, of course, get all sorts of different materials, such as copper, if we can find it in the hills nearby. There might actually be some copper out there. We'll have to find that. But anyway, let's build ourselves a big O city. And again, I am so happy that these types of games are coming out in this style. Makes me want to play more Mesopotamia. And of course, this game too. You guys ready? Here we go. And here we are, finally building in the city for the very first time. I cannot stress enough how much this reminds me of Emperor Rise of the Middle Kingdom, and you're going to hear me say it many more times. And of course, Pharaoh 2, and other city builder games around the early 2000 series, which are great. Glad again to see a game such as this. We're going to start building roads in our city, and of course what is different about this game than any other is very similar to Tropico. We need to supply goods to keep our people happy in these types of cities. If you haven't seen Tropico before, it is not just about building buildings and taxing people for living and working on the land, but it's also to supply them with things that they'll need to sustain daily life. Things like, for example, beer to keep their spirits up, literally, and also, of course, to make livestock and other things to keep their grandeur up or their class level. This city will require different levels of people like workers and elites and also business people to keep things running and to keep our levels of, I think, prestige up. Yeah, over on the right side you can see population, prestige, glorious residences and temples that we'll need to maintain here. So we're supposed to build 2 temples here. You see us putting down buildings individually, or of course we can click and drag in this game too. And the way things will work in this type of game is that once we unpause, people will come in from off the map and they'll be occupying these buildings. And of course, the more things that we give them, water, bread, beer, etc., then they'll go ahead and increase their level, which will then allow them to upgrade their house. They'll then pay more taxes on the land, buy more goods, and it'll be kind of like a cycle of increased profits and productivity within the city, so long as we can keep the basic goods coming in like food and pottery and other things that they may desire to work here. Now, I'm building this city based on my memory of games like, well, again, Anno 1800, but more similar to Emperor. Again, I mention it as I don't exactly know everything that's different in this game. Of course, I've only played a few scenarios up to this point. I haven't seen any sort of military structures or abilities to build great walls yet, but we can build great works, things again like the monuments or palaces, which is really cool, and I'm happy to see that back here in this game, as of course it's paying homage to those old type of games too, so that's great. Love to see these coming on back like this. I'm going to try to build some nice little parks and make things, instead of just, you know, a very perfected spreadsheet, which you can definitely do in Excel. You could literally find out how what the distance and how far a building can be from a farm, for example, before it can before it loses efficiency or something like that. But we're going to lay out things here like the wheat field on the left side and the livestock farm that we just built now. Of course, we can have goats or sheep, and we'll do that later and put those down too once we unpause and get the city rolling a little bit more. We have to have all these buildings connected to warehouses, and then the warehouses, of course, connect to things such as the, let's say we take a clay maker who will then supply the pottery maker, and then of course will then export or sell that locally to any of the little shops or the marketplaces. That'll allow us to make money on returns. We're going to build some residences here by the river, and of course my point here again is not to have a functioning city, because I don't know exactly how everything works yet. Although it is not the most complicated game I've ever played, there's definitely enough complexity here to keep it interesting and to make you think about how you're building your cities. Previously, we built in a game called Mesopotamia, which taught us a lot about irrigation, and again in the Emperor series there is a lot of irrigation too for some of the more dry, arid areas. If you're building next to a river, you can use those rivers then to, of course, make more irrigated farmland, and then I think over time you can then increase your productivity of the farms, or at least have more area for those farms to grow crops. Flax, barley, wheat are available in this scenario, and we're going to put down our giant monument now. I think we'll start with a temple here, and temples will require a lot of materials in order to be constructed, and they'll require a lot of different skill sets too. So we'll need masons, for example, in order to put all the bricks and such inside and lay out the foundations, and then carpenters to put in the wood and other things along that line. So we'll build an industrial area closer to that. Again, in Emperor, you were able to build the Great Wall of China. You were able to build a wall around the city, and you could even wall off districts too, so that way if you had a residential area that was separate from an industrial area, you could keep those two kind of separated by walls. And feng shui was a very important part of that game too, to keep desirability up and to keep people happy. Not very happy with that grass that we just put down either, so we're going to experiment with a few of the other things. Now keep in mind, what we're seeing on the screen now might be limited by the time period in the game. There's many different time periods in the game, so buildings may look different, crops may be different availability, there may be different skills for your workers, and it's all kind of based on whatever point in the campaign that you play, which again, you can play the campaign at any time you want. So if you want to start at the last mission or the very first, you can jump around whenever you want, which is great in my opinion. There's also scenarios too, like we may have mentioned. There's potential for mods and custom-made scenarios, which will make it really cool if there's going to be a military campaign. And again, I don't know, but just check the Steam page in great detail to see what else and what other reviews are coming out. But so far, very promising, and I love the details and animations on the buildings. It really reminds me of just a different time. It's not anything that's lacking or lazy. Here comes the people now, and of course, it really reminds me of, oh man, I do miss Emperor Rise of the Middle Kingdom. I think I'm so happy. I'm not tearing up. I'm not tearing up. Okay. I think I'm so happy because it really reminds me of when I tried recently to play that game again and was not able to get it running, and wanted to build something like the Great Wall of China. Very prone to crashes on modern day systems, but this one at least more stable, and looks, some of these buildings actually look more Greek or Roman to me. you know, it just seems like we're very close to the Mediterranean in the European side, not just along the Euphrates in whichever area of the Babylonian Empire we're in. I forget exactly what city this is. Oh, Nineveh. We're setting up areas now for water to be delivered. So instead of a building just covering a custom area, you can tell your people to, instead of like let's say it went 6 by 6 square, you can tell your people to go 12 then instead. So instead of 6 to the north and 6 to the south, they can go 12 to the north or 12 to the east, and it makes more for more unique city building. That's kind of cool. I don't know if we need wells here or not. It just seems to be that we're just testing with things, and I kind of like experimentations of this and see how it works. Really neat. Yeah. All right, so we're getting all these buildings down. All of these wells are being placed. You can see the animations for them, too. They look really good. It looks like somebody's taking... I don't know if that's actually seawater. It seems like he's taking water out of the well and then maybe purifying it for bacteria from one thing to another. I don't know exactly what the staged well is like that. I don't know why they would do that. Maybe it's for beauty, but it looks like there's 4 stages. The well itself, and then a top storage tank, a bottom storage tank, and then a tank close to where somebody is bending over to pick it up. I'm not exactly sure why. There might be a technique for that. Building a little park here now. Many different pathways that you can put down to make them look more decorative and unique. And again, this could change based on what time that we're playing. And it is cool to have access to different things. But a sandbox mode is missing from this. And again, I don't know if I've seen it on the main page yet, or if it'll be coming, but it would be a great thing to be able to pick any map and any time period, so that way you could do whatever you wanted to experiment and say, hey, what would happen if this city was built 5000 BC or 1 AD if you wanted to. All right, a lot of buildings are getting constructed now, a lot of people moving in, a lot of the basic needs are not yet met because they'll need bread, so we'll do that as soon as the first season has to pass, basically, for people to have bread in order to eat. So water's the first thing. And then ASAP, make sure you start making bread, so that way people can get everything that they need in order to upgrade their homes. We're also going to be building potters there, so pottery wheels will be a thing very shortly. And we will be making bricks near the temple/palace, so that way we can get that up. We're not really following the objectives at the moment, except for trying to get that population up to 28,500. And our prestige is at 6, which will continue to rise based on what levels of the homes are in the city, whether or not we've completed temples, and how we do with religion or crime. Actually, I haven't seen any buildings to control crime, but that could be something at another time as well. Oh, forgot we put down a little fishing dock there. So that, of course, provides a little bit of food for everybody. And bread will be coming in, too, as well as water. And we have ourselves villas here, which can then be maybe turned into glorious residence. I don't know if that means the small homes that eventually become a glorious residence, or if it's the villas, or if there's actually, I think there is another building called a residence that we'll put down. Look at all the stuff at the top, by the way. We have wheat bread, what I believe to be goat milk. That could be clay there, pottery, clay bricks, dates. That could be copper, and jewelry at the very top. And then right of that, beer. Not exactly sure what that is. Ivory, and then maybe more different types of jewelry, paper, meats, not butchered animals, meats, and then wood as well. So lots of materials to deal with in this period in time, and lots to trade too. Lots of money to come in, lots of options to find out, are your people being productive, and how much more do they need to do. We're going to actually hire some more farmers here too, so we can get more of that farmland used, and we'll see what the differences is when they're trying to grow crops on unirrigated land, or land that's just slightly less irrigated than what we want it to be. It's very irritating. You got to watch out for that. Okay, I made it funny. Thanks. Okay, look at all those buildings we have to choose from. Seal workshops, jewelers, weavers, and so much more. It's actually kind of like along the Silk Road, isn't it? If we have weavers, we'll be able to make flax then, which I think we might be able to import silk from China and have the... I don't know if that was a thing yet at this point, or if the game incorporates that, but right now we can use the weavers to take flax to make into clothing. But if we could import silk or import, clothing, then that'd be pretty cool too, to add to our glorious prestige. More buildings being constructed now. These are brick makers and a warehouse, and these are also pottery makers, so they'll be able to ship out things directly from the clay pits. And it seems like clay pits can be almost made anywhere. There we go, house, villa, and residence at the bottom. So we'll be able to build a few of those. We need to actually get 22 of those glorious residences built, and we'll try to do that in time. Now, of course, I was building everything all at once just to see how it looked and functioned. But really, of course, what you want to do in these types of games is to first build your city and get a lot of people inside. Go with farming, so that way that you can have some basic upgrades going, and they'll pay a little bit higher taxes. Then go for things like pottery and basic natural resources, maybe like iron or, well, in this case, copper, and also wood, and try to sell as much art or, you know, high cash crops as you can. So things like making flax and then selling it to the people is a really good thing to make early money too. And then you want to go for more advanced things like carvings and possibly supplying jewelry or whatnot to any of the neighbor cities, whatever their demands are. If they demand, for example, goat milk, then of course you'll want to have a few goat farms going to actually do those exports. I really like how things look along the coast of the river. Like the riverside really looks nice, and I like the building of the bridge is very simple too. We did that just right there to snap to that fishing dock. And we're snapping more of those roads together. I also tried to keep some of the natural areas with bushes alive, just to try to, I don't know, bring some sort of a natural look to the city rather than it just look like... most of it looks like a paved parking lot anyway, so we tried to bring in as much grass as we could, and I'm just figuring out a few things. The first maybe 5 missions of this game do a very good job of explaining what's going on during this time period, what you're doing when you're working for these cities, how they work, how each building is very important to the setup of the game. For example, how to do farming and how to do livestock, and exactly how the Babylonians and everybody else was figuring out how all of this worked at the time, and what they were really focusing on at this period of time. You know, things like first settling the area, then taking advantage of irrigation and different types of crops and crop rotation, and then eventually giving us things like the 7-day weeks, which is pretty sweet. Unfortunately, 5 of them happen to be work days. They should have specified that only 2 were for work and 5 were for weekends, but oh well. That's just my personal opinion. All right, we got ourselves some more warehouses going down so people can deliver their goods here. And just similar to Emperor Rise of the Middle Kingdom and Pharaoh, you can turn on and off what they accept and how they're traded from through caravans. And I think we have to set that up in a world map, but I hadn't gotten that far. This, of course, is a city builder, but trade is a very important thing between the cities, too, in order to make money. I keep mentioning that. You can make money, of course, by building here and trading locally, but also inter-city trade is very important. It looks like also some of these residences aren't finished, so I think it looks like there's scaffolding and such there. In my opinion, it looks like they might be unfinished. Some of them, you can see scaffolding outside the villas, and I think they'll need more materials delivered in order for people to move in. They can't just move in unless they have some of the more glorious goods that they need, the higher quality goods. You'll need to put down poor markets to first get people up. The standard markets don't sell the things that they need at the beginning. So at the very beginning, people just need like bread, so you will need your poor markets. And then they'll need standard markets to give them more advanced goods like pottery and dates, and then eventually on to the more prestigious goods like jewelry and paper and things like that. So they can write down that they need to remember to subscribe to the channel by clicking and tapping the subscribe button and then turning on the notification button. You know, those types of things. You know, very important. More water going down. It looks like we can build water wherever we want, except for these areas that look like they have more rough sand. Don't know if there's a way to actually clear that out, but it would make sense that a well could be built closer to a river or a body of water, and the further away you get, the more impossible it is to do that. Here I'm just clicking to see if there's any limits. I'm just experimenting with the game and having fun, both reading all the tutorials and kind of just clicking and seeing how things work and interact and what the limitations are. You don't just learn from a tutorial, you also learn from doing and making mistakes and learning things that click in your mind too. You can see that we can rotate as well. So the city does have, in the style of Roller Coaster Tycoon, the isometric style is really a style that I love. I follow a few artists who do isometric art on Twitter, and it's just really cool to see what people come up with and how beautiful some of these isometric art styles can be, even though they seem like they would be more limiting. But that's what The Sims, for example, started out, and eventually became more 3D over time. Now let's take a look at some of these plants here. No goods coming in. Looks like we need some more wooden things here. We might have to import a lot of this stuff. This area is a pretty good river valley, so we could export a lot of food, but might be quite difficult to maybe get other materials in or to find them naturally. So we'll have to be on the lookout for that and see if we can actually bring things in over time. It'll be quite useful to us to bring in a lot of goods and then trade for the things that we don't have. Of course, that's just the way, that's how business is done. That's the nature of the business. Barley and wheat are being grown now. I think we can make a few different things out of barley and wheat other than just bread. We might be able to, trade those for other goods and make different types of food. I hope there's more types of food, but it seems like bread and goat milk are really just the two staples for now. We're harvesting fish, but I don't even see the metric at the top of the screen, so I don't know if that's just something that is to be a good, that's just a basic food to feed everyone, so it doesn't count. I'm not exactly sure, but there are more goods that we can add on the plus sign at the left side. There's so many things on the screen. Of course, all the options at the bottom. If you look at the very bottom of the screen, you see the column that's exploding. That's the option to destroy things, followed by infrastructure such as road and bridges, followed by what I believe to be marketplaces, then homes, then farming, industry, and then services, monuments, and then decorations, and then monuments is the last one. The one that looks like a pyramid, basically. Okay, we're going to put down a few more decorations here after we organize our farming area. And we'll get cracking on a little bit more of an industrial area, too. We're going to build a road here. It's kind of cool. You can also separate the farms, too. People can actually cross the road. Anno 1800 is a little annoying because if you try to make a road through a wheat field, it must be connected to the remaining wheat fields, too, and it must all connect back to the farm. Here, they're smart enough to actually get across the road if they need to do that. Putting down some dates now, and as you can see, some of those plants look like they're wilted. So the question is their production lower? Did they just not produce because they have no water? I'm not exactly sure, but that's what the irrigation will come in for a little bit later. We won't get to that point in the game, but irrigation is in here. Different types of ways to irrigate as well. And again, that's why I would like to do a playthrough on the channel for a live stream. So for those of you watching thinking that a few things are incomplete or want to see more, I have more plans for this. This is a very beefy game, and it would be very cool to do a full playthrough from the very beginning to the end with just the basic campaign that's here. The art style is great. The music, as you can hear, is wonderful. And all of the buildings they look great. The infrastructure, or rather the options for infrastructure are great. Decorations are great. Character portraits are a little goofy to me, but it's still fine. It's not a big deal. And always the buildings looking good, as well as all the icons for all the goods. Really makes it understandable. A few of them, I just had to glance at them to understand what they were, and I immediately knew what they could do. And of course, if you're getting into these types of city builders for the first time, if you played Anno 1800 for the first time, there is a bit to learn, and it is somewhat intimidating for all the things that you have to do so frequently, but don't let it scare you off. Just because wheat needs to be turned into bread, some games are different. Sometimes you have to bring the wheat to a mill, and then bring the flour to the bakery, and then bring the bread to somewhere else in order to sell it. But here it's just from farm to bakery, and then right back into the local economy through the marketplaces. It can be sold that way and bring in some money. As you can see, our money's low. We will run out of money. We'll get a loan from the king and then just keep on building. And of course, I would have gone into a sandbox mode, just didn't see it at the time, and I hope it's included in the final game. We'll have to check Steam in order to see what it says, but a sandbox building mode, it would be amazing. Oh, we are broke. What else is new? Glory to Raptoria down below in that comment section. More bushes. Good. Nice decorations. I love them. And many good options, too, to be able to copy or destroy or bring something over. But I don't see any options to move buildings, which would be somewhat helpful if you needed to scoot a building over rather than rebuilding it. But since a lot of things in this game are reliant on their level, mostly the homes, then it might be a good idea for some things to stay. But again, in Anno 1800, you're also dealing with levels. If you've played any of the Anno games, you understand that there's the Tier 1 home, or the farmers, and then they go up to workers, and then work their way up to artisan, and then eventually engineers, that type of thing. Maybe 1404 might teach you a thing or two about that as well. Anno games, highly recommended. Tropico, highly recommended. Austrive, those types of games, I'll recommend those again later. And, man, I just love how the buildings look, too. Small walls for some of the homes. Little tarps and canvas that goes over the top of them. And all the people moving in, too. We'll have upgrades as soon as the bread starts getting delivered to the marketplaces. Unfortunately, at this point, I was not really focused on the whole setting up of the city in terms of anything other than infrastructure. So we're just trying to provide basic water so the people stay, but we didn't get around to distributing the bread. All the bread belongs to me, and it will be mine. Good. More decorations. That'll fix our bread problem. Excellent. I love that bridge out front, though. Looks really good. And you can actually see the boats sailing through that when we put down ports. That'll allow for trading ships to come up and down river, and they'll be able to go through the river and through the woods to grandmother's house. No, they'll be able to go through the middle of the bridge, and it looks really cool, I can assure you. More parks to go down. Of course, this just adds things like decoration to increase the desirability of the homes. But for this, I was essentially playing this as like SimCity 2000 for the first time when I played it as a kid. I just wanted a city that looked cool, experimenting with things like the hospital. In this game, we do see there are priests, and there's an astrological building that you can construct to, and different ways to predict the weather and to look at the stars and to do research. Pretty cool that those options exist. Right now, I'm trying to get the warehouse that delivered the bread to the center of the city, but it'll be too late before we're going to run out of money and basically quote-unquote fail beforehand. But again, I want to play Sandbox. I think that would be amazing to pick and choose my map and to pick and choose the time in which I start, so that way there's different eras, you know, like for example, if we're in the Copper Age, or if we're 10,000 BC, there's going to be a difference between what we do. Although I would say we have to start essentially. Farming is the very bare minimum. I don't see any options to hunt. There are fishing, but there's no hunting here, so I don't think you can go back into times of nomadic tribes such as Dawn of Man. But again, that is another great city builder that I'd link in with this one as well. A lot of people ask me, what is this? I play this, is this like that? And it's like, well, all these games do have some sort of means of production in terms of taking one item and turning it into a good that can either be used in the city, or it can be sold for resources, or in this case money, gold. So that is somewhat of a thing. Of course, if you, again, harvest clay, make it into pots and sell it locally, that is a thing you can do to make money, but it's not necessarily something that they need to live. It's not like somebody's going to die if they don't get food. They'll actually just move out. I don't think in these games people actually starve, unless, again, it's like Emperor, where there's large military campaigns where people can be killed or taken hostage or whatever, like kings and whatnot. Alright, for the scenario purposes, we've, of course, taken out a loan from the king, and we'll probably be beheaded for our failures. But again, the point here is to kind of see how things work and to take a look at the city now that it's kind of built. A lot of promise here, and I love building those giant monuments and stuff in these types of games. I really want more city builders to have world wonders or monuments or large public works projects that can really bring in a lot of money and also change the economy or provide a good to everyone. Everything looks great, though. All the buildings in great detail. Now that we see them going around, lots of things being constructed, lots of people going around delivering water or whatnot. I, of course, have everything set up incorrectly and whatnot, but that, again, is not the point. It really is to see what the game has to offer in terms of all the different materials and all that stuff. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell if you made it here to the end. For more great city builders, may I suggest other games such as Mesopotamia, Austrive, Anno 1800, Kingdoms and Castles, and Foundation. All many great games. But, of course, subscribe to the channel, check those playlists, and I think I'd love to do probably a live stream on this game in the future. So if you'd like to see more, go ahead and help promote that algorithm. Smash that like button. Of course, Susan requires it, so I'd appreciate it as we rocket towards 1 million subs so people can find the channel and great games like these. If you were a big fan of these in the past, it's great to see them coming back into our modern times. I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Have a fantastic day. Crazy Dinosaur Man out. We'll see you soon. Take care, everyone, and thanks for dropping in.